You're listening to Second Cut. This is the podcast from the Film Magazine where we talk about topics in film theory, criticism, history, and other stuff. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who mainly uses pencils for writing.
I'm Sam. I'm the one who's looking good and feeling good.
And who are you, third person on this podcast?
Apologies, my
has
internet's
he
slightly
died?
dodgy at the moment. But I'm
died?
Kieran. I'm still vaguely here. I'm Kieran. I'm the one that probably should have read half of the 100 best books to read before you die, but really needs to look them up and actually read them.
Ooh. Yeah, well, but only at times where they have real meaning to your life, like in terms of thematically what's happening in your story.
Yeah. We talked about this
Cool.
previously.
I think I'm still
about,
here.
Talked about this previously. Lessons in school in films. It's always going to lend itself to what's going on. The story at hand. And Equalizer is another one with using books for that. How clever of them.
I wish there was a point in the movie where he said, "I'm the equalizer," and he equalizes all over the place. That was really missing.
Breaks only one hand from every person, so that everyone's got an equal.
Yeah, like what do you see when you see me? The equalizer. No, nobody said it. It's bullshit.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody calls Jason Statham the Transporter, at least in the first one, but I haven't seen it in many years, so you're allowed. And nobody says Apocalypse Now, hence it has to be scrawled on the background.
Well, speaking of time periods,
you have time periods.
Yeah, we picked. Kieran picked these movies because they came out a decade ago, or slightly more than a decade ago.
I just thought
for
it was
two of them.
Yeah, it was just kind of beginning of the year that I finally got around to actually watching the three Equalizer movie because I remembered the third one had come out kind of in 2023, and I'm like, oh, I should probably watch them, and then realized, hang on, that's pretty impressive that three fairly decently big blockbuster action movies that have all managed to get fairly successful sequels as well, all started in the same year. Roughly, give or take, sort of a month or so for festivals that are coming out. So it just seemed like an interesting kind of watermark.
Yeah, I mean, of the three franchises, Equalizer was my blind spot as well, and I've just seen the first one for this, but I don't know why it's taken so long to get around to it. To be honest, because why wouldn't you? Denzel being cool and offering people.
I think you'll find Denzel is always cool.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, that's what it says on the tin, isn't it? Both Kingsman and John Wick. I've been with them pretty much from the start. I think I probably came to John Wick maybe a year later, after the first one came out, but I kept on top of them afterwards. But Kingsman, or the original anyway, I've seen time and time again. It's one of my comfort movies, really. It's just pop it on wherever, just switch off the brain, just enjoy a bit of well choreographed action and nice suits,
Yeah, for me, I remember Kingsman and John Wick being very talked about on Reddit after they came out because of the action. The Equalizer, on the other hand, not so much. So that's not why I didn't see it, but yeah, also a blind spot for me until literally today. But Kieran, you went into our Slack for TFM and you asked around. What are some questions, comments, etc. That would be much appreciated, and it is. Shout out to Martha. Why did you say that name? She has only seen Kingsman out of these three, but she has a hot take that the anal sex joke at the end, or the anal sex joke ending is up there. Sorry, I can't read. Is up there with the worst film endings in existence.
I tend to agree. It kind of cheapens the whole thing somewhat. I mean, apparently the theory of Matthew Vaughn just wanted to do like a Roger Moore style innuendo kind of joke at the end, except to do the R-rated version of that. So that was the theory behind it. But it's not necessary, is it? It's like, I mean, I know it's not like
I think it's there.
It's not like a subtle film or anything, but it's yeah.
No.
Go on, Gary. Sorry.
I mean, I would say it's there purely for shock value.
Yeah.
And obviously, like the introduction of the joke is real.
Yeah.
It's funny the first time and not the second, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and they try and kind of one up themselves, for the sequel as well. Where do you plant a tracker on a female enemy agent? It's just the infamous Glastonbury Festival kind of sequence. It's just a bit icky, really.
And
I will admit I've seen Golden Circle once at cinemas, and I'm kind of like I kind of don't need to see it again. I've already seen it. Elton John goes beating people up. Like you kind of don't need anything after that.
Well, the best thing about your film is a shot of Elton John, a CG assisted Elton John kind of doing like a roundhouse kick in slow motion. It's you're kind of in trouble, really.
Although I will actually say that one of the deaths of one of the characters is glorious and goes out like an absolute trooper. But the film itself is kind of let's take the first one and milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously go into that more in detail when we get to the Kingsman segment later on. But yeah, I mean, I think of the three, this is it was definitely the franchise that kind of fell off the quickest. Which are just first one, very entertaining, really solid, and then just everything they've done, kind of even tangentially connected to it since, has been garbage, more or less. Whereas John Wick and Equalizer,
I'm gonna jump in very. Yeah. I'm going to jump in very quickly because my network bandwidth is apparently low, so I'm going to attempt to keep going, but I'm going to jump off and restart my laptop for 5 minutes, and hopefully that will solve it. So keep going with other people's comments, but I will be back in a few minutes' time, and hopefully that will solve some issues.
But by jump in, you meant jump out, definitely.
Yeah, well, I was going to jump into the conversation and say I'm jumping out, so I shall hopefully be back in 5 minutes. Keep it going.
I will say, Kingsman is the only one that an anal sex joke would work. So I mean, it.
Can you imagine Keanu or Denzel just throwing that out there just randomly?
No, or even, like Alfie Allen. Like I maybe I could see him saying something, but I don't know. Of the protagonist, yes. And then that's Martha Lane. Go check out her stuff. We've talked about her articles and such. We also have Margaret Rorty. She had a take that I thought was a little bit hot until I started thinking about it. But she says, I think Keanu Reeves is one of our greatest action stars to ever do it. And one of the last true movie stars we have left, John Wick, is a testament to that. Also, my favorite part is when John Leguizamo calls the Russian mafia guy and is like, do you know whose car that was? It was John Wick's. And the mob guy is like, oh. That eggs up.
Yeah. That is a good moment. Math did a very good. Did she do a where to start with Keanu? I think, which went into detail of that. Yeah, it's well worth the read. I mean, Keanu, bless him, he doesn't have range, but what he does, he does well. He's. I mean, I tend to kind of have a bit of an argument with my dad quite regularly about this, because he reckons Keanu's always been a crap actor and he's never been able to act or anything. But I think it just very much depends on the material. I think he can do certain things well, and obviously he's always been very physically capable. Of the action films he's been in, and yeah, John Wick is a character. It's a lot of long silences and kind of letting his action do the talking, which is possibly perfect for Keanu. But yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I'll talk about it a bit more, or maybe I'll just get it out of the way here. I don't know. But I think in terms of action acting, like doing the action, obviously what he's doing in John Wick is incredible. But in terms of like the character, like yeah, he just lost his wife and his dog, so I get he's going to be a bit flat, but like Keanu's very flat and one note in the movie. So
yeah, I mean the character, it's like a classic kind of Western archetype, isn't it? It's a strong silent type. He's I mean, do we even know, like at this stage, like this stage franchise, if that's even his real name? we don't really know much about him at all, really. It's
so
just,
I watched the film commentary, and they mention how he gets the dog delivered under the name John Wick, and they talk about how he's using his real name to get deliveries, and like a normal undercover agent, secret assassin might use a pseudonym or something like that, but nope, this is his real name.
Unless you're James Bond, in which case, in 9 times out of 10, you're introducing yourself as such.
And also for Keanu, like I've really only ever seen him do the same thing outside of like Bill and Ted. I mean, I'd really have to think through it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we've, between us, two out of three of our franchises are built around middle-aged men doing really brutal fight scenes in very sharp suits.
It's true. They did want.
They came out in kind of quick succession, and that's like a go-to kind of action trope now, Although I suppose Bond was always doing it, but I think they revitalized that to an extent.
They also wanted Clint Eastwood originally when he was 83 years old to play John Wick. That was the writer's vision.
I've heard there's rumors that they also wanted Bruce Willis as well.
Harrison Ford I saw listed. So
Jesus.
We'll get into this when we properly get to it, but they could have had anyone.
And Joe, he asked, "What do you guys make of Antoine Fuqua? Some of his films are genuinely brilliant, but he's so prolific. I personally believe he's kind of a hit or miss filmmaker, and he directed The Equalizer."
Yeah, I've not seen. I don't think I've really seen enough of his stuff for us to make a judgment there. I mean, let me get his filmography up to remind myself.
So it just looking at it, like he did Training Day, but he also did Olympus Has Fallen. So like, I don't know.
He also. Yeah, so he did the Clive Owen King Arthur.
Oh, he did Shooter, which I is also kind of
Yeah, Southpaw, Jake Gyllenhaal's as the boxer was all right.
Magnificent Seven was
Seven remake, that was very
Yeah, he produced Bullet Train as well, which is iffy. It's got its good moments, it's got its worst. He apparently directed King Arthur as well, which I'm fairly sure my old lecturer had some kind of hand in, probably on the financing side. And I only know that because in his office used to be a massive poster of King Arthur. I'm fairly sure he had some things on that.
I mean, it was like a fairly big kind of British production, wasn't it? So that probably makes sense.
I do see here he fell in love with Caravaggio, and that's pretty sweet. I love anybody that loves Caravaggio. But I would say Joe's assessment seems, based on our collective, what we've seen of him, seems like he's pretty hit or miss, unlike his action star, Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I think he's one of those ones where it's kind of, some directors, they're either going to be amazing or awful. It seems to be, again, I've seen the Equalizer films, and that's it for his directing. I haven't even seen Training Day, as we know. If it's in the last 30 years, I haven't seen it. But he seems to be at least looking at kind of the percentages. Somebody that kind of genuinely, you go in having no idea what the quality is going to be. Like, it genuinely could be up in the air. He could have a run of like 7 awful movies and then do an amazing one followed by a middling one. There's just no way to predict.
Yeah, and it's like you got a question kind of if you're kind of producing them at that rate, do you have your own kind of distinct kind of stylistic stamp, or are you just kind of a direct for hire? Or are you just keeping working, and occasionally the stars might align, you might come out with something really memorable.
I was going to say, some directors can manage to keep some kind of style, but I think that was even at a fast rate. But I think you could do that more in the past. I want to say in the olden days, in the kind of golden days of Hollywood kind of thing. So Hitchcock, it didn't matter what he came out with or how awful it was, you could tell it was a Hitchcock film. Now it's kind of a lot of the films where if you've got a kind of let's use badly an auteur theory kind of a distinctive trademark style, normally your films are going to come out sort of at least 2 or 3 years apart kind of thing. A lot of them sort of 4 or 5 years apart, so whether he's just pumping them out and therefore that ruins it, I don't know. But it's kind of one of those ones he could come out with a film and I'd have no idea who directed it until the name came up.
Coming out next year, he has what looks to be a Bohemian Rhapsody-style Michael Jackson biopic called Michael. So it says it follows his life from Jackson 5 until the weeks before his death. So
yeah, but it's endorsed by the Jackson estate, so it's going to be toothless, I would imagine.
He has done a couple of documentaries as well, though, especially in recent years. So he did one, American Dream, American Nightmare, and then What's My Name, Muhammad Ali, and The Day Sport Stood Still. Wiki doesn't even have an entry for that. But it means that he is actually kind of doing other things as well. It's not just straight action movies, which is, fair enough for him.
Yeah. Well,
at least on there.
Let's get into one of his movies with Kieran. You're up. Tell us about The Equalizer.
I mean, I think we're all up for all of these because we've all seen all of the first installments at least. But I was kind of mainly taking this one because I think I was the only one that had actually seen it at the time when we were dishing them out. So it is a film remake of the Equalizer series, which was originally a series in the 70s and 80s, I believe, late 80s, something like that. Let me just check up the dates. 1985 it started to 1989, I think.
Yeah. And on CBS, so much less violence, I would assume.
Yes, but with a Brit as the main character.
Yes, starring one of your favourites, Kieran.
I was going to say, no longer in fire off the coast of Scotland in a giant wicker man. He has been reborn as Robert McCall. And I'll admit I've not seen a single episode of the original series. I haven't even seen there's a new series as well.
Also, his name is if you just added Ward to Ed Wood's first and last name.
Yep, Edward Woodward, who people also miss being in Hot Fuzz as well, just adding to that cast of Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
A wonderful actor that doesn't get the thing that I need. Apparently, according to this, he puts out an ad in the original series. Through a newspaper ad. It's like, if you got any problems, call this number and call the Equalizer, which is how he kind of does it. Yeah. But in this version, he doesn't actually use the phrase, the name Equalizer.
Well, basically the whole film is like a set up for that, isn't he? He ends up doing that in the final scene, essentially, doing like a modern version of that, just taking it online,
Yeah.
And then he says, we need a name for this team. And then Miles Teller looks at him and...
you keep going.
Oh, I forget. Do they actually say it, or do they just say, that's fantastic, like something I don't remember. What are we, some kind of Equalizer squad?
I don't know. I'm moving swiftly on. And now for something completely different. So it's Denzel Washington as Robert McCall, who is a guy who works at Home Depot, or equivalent of, shifting carts. He's very well read. He goes to a cafe kind of late at night. He knows fairly well, in with the community. And
can I answer this about the cafe? How does he get away with bringing his own tea bag across, over night after night, and then just filling it up with water? Do they charge him for the hot water? Because he's apparently not buying anything else.
You'll have to ask Antoine Fuqua for that, and or Denzel Washington. I don't
I,
know.
I
Maybe
was
he.
thinking, yeah, they probably charge for the hot water because whenever I've served it at restaurants, like, yeah, you give them the tea bag, but either way,
Yeah,
you're providing them with the hot little
yeah,
water thing that they pour.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe he's been in there so much that they know kind of he's going to improve kind of. I don't know. Maybe he's like an entertainer, where people will keep staying there and buying drinks because he's there to talk to or something. I don't know that.
Or pie.
Yeah, that. But yeah, so he's the ordinary man until he sees that one of the people he continuously talks to, who is Terry, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, works essentially being pimped out, and she ends up in the hospital at one point. And so Robert McCall finds out who her pimp is, goes to them and tries to offer them $9,800. Maybe they would have taken the 98,000 at $9,800 for her freedom, and they go no. And so, being an ex-marine, and we need our action movie stuff, he doesn't like this, and he does a very Kingsman shutting of the door and locking it. And amazingly enough, also using a watch in this opening fight scene as well. There's something in the air at
A
the
lot of
time.
watches.
Yeah,
yeah.
but his thing that he does in all three of the films is he kind of has like almost like a 30-second timer that I'm going to take you all out in 30 seconds, let's go kind of thing.
So I thought he was OCD when I was
Yeah,
watching this.
yeah. I mean, it's clearly an insomniac, isn't he? But like, every kind of waking moment of the day, kind of sets himself like little challenges. It's like, this took me this long today. Tomorrow I'll do it a bit quicker or a bit more efficiently. It's.
I just think he's like Doctor Who in that he doesn't actually sleep.
Yeah.
For Jacob, there's a running gag with the classic series of Doctor Who that you never saw him sleep, so it turned out he doesn't actually need to sleep. And so anytime he's near a bed, it's like, oh, is he going to sleep? Is he going to sleep?
We don't see the Power Rangers sleep either. Like, nobody makes that assumption.
Yeah, but I reckon he's like Doctor Who. Anyway, yeah, so he kills a load of the kind of the pimps, and then it turns out their connection with like the Russian kind of mafia kind of drug squad people, and they come down.
He basically takes on the whole Russian mob on the back of this,
along with some corrupt cops, one of whom is David Harbour.
And there's a ton of Boston accents because it's in Boston.
Yeah, what he said,
including a Wahlberg. There's a Wahlberg brother playing a corrupt cop.
It's one of those movies.
Do you think you get a tax break for hiring a Wahlberg to play a corrupt cop in your movie?
We'll have to ask the American on this, Jacob.
You get the key to the fucking city, I think.
Yeah, we'll take
get in the car, Equalizer.
Yeah. Oh no, you're not called that, are you, Robert McCall?
Get the car. Get the McCall.
Yeah. It's, to be honest, the first one's actually quite fun. The thing with all three of the films, and again, we're mainly focusing on the first ones in the franchise. They take this, as all the Equalizers take their sweet time to get round to what they're actually going to do. And normally the main bad guy that you're going to fight to the end isn't introduced until about halfway through, because you've got to kick the hornet's nest a little bit before the main guy is introduced. In the second one, amazingly enough, it's Pedro Pascal. The third one, it's some Italian from somewhere, I can't remember, because it's essentially the Equalizer in Italy, in an Italian town, and so we're going to take on the actual mafia instead of Russians or something like that. And it does spend an awful lot of time kind of just with Robert's life and just hanging around and just showing that he is a peaceful guy, or trying to be a peaceful guy. When it gets going, it gets going. When it's dull, you're like, I can see what you're doing. It could also...
It's a long film for like an action thriller, isn't it? It's like, what was it, 2 hours 10, something like that? And,
each one knocks 10 minutes off. So the second one's 2 hours, the third one's like 1 hour. And I
really, in this first one, I really appreciate like the time it takes, to establish characters and build up kind of their kind of makes it like that they have got like a life outside this world. You know, that we're not just we're just dropping in on a random moment, but then things all kick off. You know, I thought the first half was really well done, really compelling.
Yeah.
I think it kind of, as it goes on, it's very kind of stop start. You just think, right, set up next set piece, run around for a bit, set up next piece, run around for a bit, and then just it's that kind of cycle which kind of gets my nerves a little bit, but.
Yeah, it sets up the character quite nicely. Again, it's kind of an origin story for what is going to be a franchise. And it kind of takes the opposite track to, I guess, what we'll discuss with John Wick, in that it tries to make Robert McCall an actual person, an actual character, as unbelievable as he is, because he does essentially turn into Superman that never gets a scratch. Well, he gets a scratch that he kind of
he pours boiling honey.
Which I actually had forgotten about, and I'm like, that's actually an interesting little thing. I wonder if that is actually a thing that you can do if they do that out in the field.
Because I thought he was bringing like some oil to the boil, to use as a weapon.
To use a weapon, yeah.
Well,
I mean, that's another thing I appreciate. There are a couple of fake outs in this where you think it's going to go one way, and it's like, and either it goes completely different direction, or the action happens on screen. You just see off screen. You just see the aftermath, which is kind of quite the kind of subvert your expectations a bit in that way.
Boiling honey is actually a remedy our health department is going to start suggesting in the coming year. So
well, instead of vaccines.
Yeah. Oh.
We're going to keep away from the politics as much as we can. Don't worry. For a long time, Miles wasn't much better.
Tried to distract me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's in many ways it is kind of it's kind of John Wick, but he's an actual character.
I think trying not to compare it, because I want to save John Wick for John Wick. I really love that Denzel is Denzel in this movie. Like, he's very charismatic. I wouldn't say he gets tons of range, but I do see, like, he's coaching the guy up, like in Remember the Titans, and then he's, kind of like a dad figure, and he's got all these different roles. He's very serious when he's sitting down with the guy, but also, he's a little laid back too. Like, Denzel is great. I love him so much. And as an action star, maybe, I don't know, but just as an actor, he's really good.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the possibly the edit is quite kind to him in terms of making him look as cool as he can. I'm not sure how quick he actually is. Doing these things. Obviously,
the cuts were.
It was a fair bit. He was, he had a decade on Keanu, but he's not a Keanu, in terms of like how he physically handles stuff, But,
yeah, he was like 59 going on 60 for this one, and then when the third one came out last year, he's obviously topping, coming towards 70. And there are a couple of scenes in the third one where it does show. That is one thing about this movie that can be seen as good or bad, in that essentially Denzel Washington is an impervious superhero. And I was thinking, with who is it for Fast and Furious that two of them can't be seen to get beaten in a fight according to their contracts?
It's The Rock and Vin Diesel, isn't it? Or it's like that they've got to have if they take punches, the other person's got to take an equal amount of punches.
I think they all can't lose, like in terms of the good guys. I think Statham can't either.
Yeah, the three I've got in my head are The Rock, Vin Diesel, and Statham. I can't remember which two out of the three, at least. If they're in a film, they can't be seen to lose a fight or something like that. And there is a similar thing here with Denzel, that you never see him kind of have to fall back and retreat for anything. And it's thinking about something like The Raid. That's something they said with The Raid, is that there are times where who is it? Iko Uwais, isn't it? He comes into a thing and sees a load of people and goes, "Oh crap! I'm out of this. I've just got to run and hope to get the hell out of here." These guys have to come across as kind of the American superhero kind of thing. And I use American very loosely because I'm sure the Brits do, but they have to be impervious.
It goes back to like the 80s kind of action hero kind of thing, wasn't it? Like these muscle-bound men, your Stallones and your Schwarzeneggers, who are again impervious, but at least their looks kind of impervious. Whereas like post Die Hard, they're still invincible, but they just look more like ordinary people.
Yeah, I mean, this is something they said. It was Stephen Fry said about kind of British version of American comics, where in American sitcom it's all about the kind of the witty one-liners, the quick kind of thing like that. in British sitcoms, a lot of the main characters are kind of doomed to fail, and that's why we kind of love them. They're almost getting somewhere, but they'll never quite reach it, kind of thing. There is always a failure in there. If you look at something like Blackadder, and it almost feels like Denzel Washington in this. Again, obviously, I mean, it's based off a TV series that ran for like 80, 90 episodes who never died. So, like, there's obviously a thing there as well. But he takes like a slight bullet graze in this, and that's about it. You never feel like he's in danger, and you can take that either as kind of look at how amazing Denzel Washington is. There will always be somebody out there like a vigilante supporting us. Isn't it good that people are out there? Or you can take that as he's not taking a single hit. How ridiculous is that?
I think he also barely gets into get hit situations though. Like in the opening fight scene, he sees the guy with the gun, so got to get the guy with the gun. You got to get the guy with the knife. Whenever he's in that room with all of the Russians and he holds the gun to the guy's junk to get everybody to lower their weapons, like that was the one that was most ridiculous. But for the most part, I felt like he was staying away.
Yeah, and talking about like obviously said kind of it does Anton Fuqua have like a recognizable style, but there is this kind of little kind of stylistic flourish they do where it kind of zooms into his eye and it almost turns into a Terminator. He's like analyzing the situation.
Sherlock Holmes.
Slows down.
Yeah, it's very like Sherlock. And it is nice that kind of all three kind of franchises have something that's kind of stylized and recognizable about them. The kind of zooming in on the eyes is in the second one. I'm fairly sure it's in the third one as well. That kind of it's one of his things that he sees everything and he works out exactly what's going to happen, and that's when he starts his clock. And then you go, oh, we're dead now, kind of thing, And Kingsman has its stylized action scenes, very specific style. John Wick does bits as well.
I suppose that's kind of what marks him out, kind of the three kind of main action heroes we're talking about. He's working things out, isn't he? He's outsmarting his opponents. He's using the environment to his advantage and stuff. I mean, the final set piece, of the Home Depot, it's basically, I think it's been described as ultraviolet Home Alone. Just he's setting all these traps, for people coming into his house,
And it is using kind of the location to his advantage, which is quite nice. Where there's things with like the microwave and that he uses in kind of the staff room and stuff like that. Stuff like that I do appreciate, where it isn't literally just somebody hiding around a corner with a gun out. He's doing interesting things, and they're doing interesting things with the script. And there is the one shot of all the sprinklers coming off and Denzel just walking out in the rain in slow-mo with the gun down. It's like, okay, badass here, We can't deny that there are moments here where you just go, okay, Denzel, well done. Yeah.
And if you've got a particularly nasty kind of main bad guy, you want them to go out horribly, and nail guns the way to do that, isn't it? I mean, that's a very satisfying kind of final confrontation.
Speaking of him, I love the bad guy in this movie. I think he has good performance, but also he's willing to go get his hands dirty, which is great for a bad guy. Because he has that scene where he's like, "Yeah, I'm here. I'm the boss now. You're all gonna do what I say." But he's doing everything himself also. Yeah.
It's really nice. I mean, there are times where
also New Zealand person playing a Russian,
slightly cartoonish, but for the most part, at least he kind of gives it both barrels, And I mean, there's little bits like he goes and breaks down part of the kind of drug laundering kind of stuff, and all the people there kind of working on it. He gets a big barrel of the money and kind of goes, you stop what you're doing, and he hands out some of the money to all of them as they leave, kind of thing. He goes, what, they're probably, and that's something that goes in for the second film as well, and it also in this one, that he's very much looking out for people that are down on their luck. That's his job. And people get into bad situations a lot of the time because they're not kind of in a stable financial environment to do so. So him handing out the money is actually a really nice thing, because he's going, a lot of the people probably got into working this because they had no other option. If I'm shutting down the whole thing because it's illegal, I'm at least going to give them a chance to, for at least for a week or two, redeem themselves by giving them a way to, to keep themselves on their feet. And it happens in the second one. He looks after a young man as well there that wants to become an artist, and he breaks in when it's a young black man. So his brothers got killed as well. So he's with all of the kind of it, however I say this, it's going to sound bad, but kind of almost the black gang kind of culture. Again, trying to find out a way that sounds really like as okay as I can sound it. And he breaks in there and kind of gets him out because he's and they're trying to egg him up and get this guy, I can't remember his name, I'll look it up in a minute in the second one, to go and take a gun and avenge his brother's murder. And McCall breaks in, and gets him out and goes, look, I'm essentially trying to do you a favor. I will pay you to paint my walls. I'll pay you to paint over this graffiti if that's what you want to do, but you do not go down this path. So it's something that's in him. And when he gets to the third one, he's doing little bits for a community in Rome. So just a little bit then, when he's handing out the money to the people walking out of this place, I think that's something that makes him a little bit different to others, in that he could have gone in and, oh, they're working in this, they must be absolutely evil, let's kill them all. And a lot of films would have done that, and probably a lot of films have done that. But they've gone and made his character go, you know what? Some of them are coming after me with guns, but some of them are, working this, cutting up the drug, stuff like that, because they need money to pay the bills and pay their families and stuff like that. So you know what? I'm going to give them some of the illegal money or whatever that they're making off the drugs. Here, have some. You close down, but I'm going to make sure you've got a week or two's rent money or whatever to find yourself a proper job, kind of thing. And it's never said; it's just kind of done that. Well, and that is something that on the second time, I really did appreciate.
He gives the bad guys a chance too, because he says to the cops, "Go return that money, or else." And then he goes to the main bad guy, gives them an option. He tries to buy Chloe Grace Moretz, which, they didn't take it, so he murdered them all very quickly. But that's nice to see that.
Taken the money. You lost your life over $9,800. You should have taken the money, kind of as he's bleeding out on the floor.
He's very much willing to give people an opportunity, no matter where they are. Like not just the downtrodden, but the uptrodden as well.
Yeah, it's it makes him a little bit different to other kind of characters and action heroes, and kind of the almost the one person hitman revenge kind of assassin kind of things that come out very much in the last 10 years in the wake of things like John Wick and this. There's been a revival.
Because the revenge movies, like that's a pretty standard way to go, isn't it? If these are all like to various extents kind of modern versions of like westerns, that's the usual kind of structure, isn't it? Someone's wronged you, you've got to take them out, and then the bad guys see how much threat you are, so they've got to take you out, and it's that back and forth. Whereas this, he's more selfless, isn't he? He's trying to do the right thing for as many people as possible, which is quite refreshing for this kind of character.
Yeah.
I also think the lack of there's some stylization with the bad guy where he's shot upside down and shot in mirrors and stuff. But the sort of grounded visual of it makes him seem less ridiculous of a character to me than John Wick.
Yeah. It is a more grounded story. There are parts which are ridiculous and slightly overblown. There's a big Hollywood action movie. There's going to be bits which are ridiculous and overblown. And the main kind of Russian bad guy, I think at parts you can look at it and go, this is slightly kind of having too much fun with it. If that makes sense. There are parts where it's like, you just went, let's just go all out. But at the same time, it is far more grounded than Wick. Wick is, we'll get onto this, but I think John Wick is more of an idea. This is meant to be a story. And I like the fact that this one kind of keeps it in a fairly small location as well. It's not yes, it's taken down the Russian, mafia boss and stuff like that, but it doesn't end up on a runway somewhere fighting over a nuclear warhead or something like that. It is very simply just after a very simple, small scale drama idea. And again, the finale is taking place in a warehouse for a Home Depot. It's not some big tower block. It's not a kind of old boy style penthouse suite kind of, at the end. It's in a really mundane, basic, normal location to the everyday person. I think that's a very interesting thing they've done there. There are some parts which I don't like. Some of the slow-mo works and some of it doesn't. And it's fairly dodgy. But this could have been a far worse film. The second one is not as good. The third one is better than the second. But if you were going to reboot a franchise, this is not the worst way to do it. And let's remember the first Mission Impossible film that came out wasn't the greatest film in existence, and only got sort of 60-70% on various places. So it's good and solid, and Denzel is Denzel Washington kicking ass. What more do you want?
I also think the final sequence with the mob boss is I mean, it's kind of stupid, but I also like that he only kills the boss, and then we watch him walk through the house of all the dead mafia people instead of going through the tedium of watching him kill every one of these people.
I mean, now you'd probably do that as a post-cred scene, wouldn't you?
That would have been better as a post-credit, like mid-credits, yeah. I would have liked that.
But, yeah, Equalizer, I think, is... if you've slept on it and you want a very good, or at least very solid, like, action thriller kind of thing, again, along the same lines of a John Wickish kind of thing, of one person taking out a Russian squad in the middle of a city kind of thing, then
with no Russian actors.
I think it would be a good kind of companion piece, like double feature to watch with Nobody, from the other year with Bob Odenkirk. It's quite similar again. It's like taking like an everyman, with a mysterious past, and so like a slightly more low key kind of take on this kind of material, but still very entertaining and very brutal.
Yeah. And there is some decent violence in here. It's not like full kind of Japanese or Korean style violence, but there is some blood in the gunshots. There is some fingers getting chopped off and stuff like that, and it's fair to them. Yeah, this and John Wick, I think, really kind of started a trend in the last sort of 10 years or so must be 10 years of kind of the one man or one person kind of killing many throughout the film kind of thing. Thinking of stuff like Atomic Blonde, The Villainess came out, even something like Ava, Nobody, that kind of trend. It's going through, and it's come back, and I think John Wick and this are very much leading the way for that.
Definitely.
Well, I also saw people online say just watch Man on Fire, because it's Denzel doing this, but better.
Sort of like a trial run for this,
but I haven't seen Man on Fire, so.
I have, but years and years ago. It's a Tony Scott action film, so I'm sure it was very well put together.
It might be better then.
Yeah.
But this is still solid.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense to talk about John Wick after this one because, like you said, it's one guy taking on a bunch of Russians. But John Wick, it's not a graphic novel, which Kingsman is, but it seems like one, and that's what they were going for when they were making it. John Wick was first conceived by Derek Kolstad, who has just the most miserable story I've heard, where he just wrote script after script after script and just was not making any money as a writer. Then he finally had 2 movies made, and then he sold this. He wrote like 60 scripts before finally getting one sold. It sounds insane. I don't have that many ideas.
It happens.
It makes no sense to me.
And do you know the original title for this film?
Scorn.
I've read the original
Scorned.
screenplay. Yeah, it's originally called Scorn. Yeah, and it's only like this screenplay or original script is only like 70-80 pages long, and there are quite a few differences. This film's sort of 20 minutes longer than it is on the page.
Yeah.
But the story is they shot it under Scorn and everything like that, and then Keanu Reeves was on the press tour just calling it John Wick. And so the producers are just like, well, I guess it's called John Wick now. Keanu Reeves has decided.
Well, the producer that bought it was Basil Ewenwick. Who knows? He apparently had the lowest bid for the film, but was actually going to make it. So they said, go ahead and sell it there. Let's get this movie made. And they brought on, I want to say they brought on Keanu first. But it might have been Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, who are the co-directors, but only Stahelski was actually credited. But it was the two of them. And for those who don't know this somehow, Stahelski was Keanu Reeves' stunt double on The Matrix. He was also Brandon Lee's stunt double on The Crow. So he finished a lot of that movie before they just imposed Brandon Lee's face over him. And then also he was a stunt coordinator in later Matrix movies and did second unit work on a film produced by the Wachowskis. So that's kind of where he was getting his start from. And you can really see it in this film that it was made by someone who knows stunts. Like it is that's the thing with this movie, I would say, more than anything, is the realistic gunplay, where Keanu Reeves has to reload his weapon throughout scenes. They're counting bullets. They're taking a very grounded approach to the action. He's doing jujitsu. You know, he's doing all this seemingly ridiculous stuff, but doing it as realistically as possible. And that really grounded action contrasts with the, you know, sort of graphic novel reality that is being created, and is a lot more alluded to in the first film than shown.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone out there hasn't seen the video of Keanu like training with like Navy SEALs, you know, doing all the maneuvers and stuff, you know, all the rolls and like the, you know, the movements with the guns and everything like that, it's very cool.
Yeah, it's a weird mix of being incredibly grounded and incredibly not grounded at the same time, because John Wick is not a realistic character. He's not even a character.
No.
He's an idea. He's a stand-in for a concept.
John Wick is literally a superhero. Like, if you're gonna say Denzel Reeves or not Denzel Reeves, Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington is no Keanu Reeves in this movie. Yeah, he takes damage. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
I mean, it's literally is known, you know, as the Baba Yaga, you know, by the, you know, so it's this he's a ghost essentially, you know, he's a thing of myth, you know, he's
sheer will, you know.
Yeah. And that's what these movies are.
He's known as the Baba Yaga. It's like the boogeyman. He wasn't the boogeyman. He was the man you sent to kill the boogeyman. And they establish that later in the franchise. They probably do here as well, but they kind of they lean more into it. You know, that he's got his suit is bulletproof, isn't it? You know, he's got stuff, you know, in the lining. You know, so he's not just shrug off bullets because he's Keanu
that is
Reeves.
not in this movie.
No. So I think they might establish that in the second one. I can't remember. I mean,
that's
another thing about this franchise. It's a bit like the Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like really, it's better when it was like kind of the simple, or relatively simple kind of first installment where they're trying ideas out, and it's just kind of back to basics, just doing a genre well. But then kind of both franchises, I think, got more and more bogged down with their mythology as it kind of went on. Like the more stuff they added, I don't think it necessarily improved.
And that's one thing
the trouble is with it, just on that point very quickly, the trouble with it is that the first one is kind of origins. You got to set everything up. Second and third one, from what I remember, I've seen them the once, I think. And their trouble is you've got to then do something that's new and add something on, but you've got to try and keep it simple. But if you keep it too simple, there's nothing to the film. So you've got to add bits in. So the second one is just another kind of mission that he does with a shock ending. The third one is just trying to stop getting killed for 2.5 hours. But if you just do that, it's going to get incredibly dull. So you've got to try and add things in without making it overly complicated. And then the fourth one is just 3 hours of him getting hit and getting back up again.
3 and 4 are basically all the assassins coming after him, aren't they? And him trying to get to the people who run the assassins, you know, before he's killed. And then they find various excuses for him to do a bit of globe trotting as well, you know, get some more interesting, like, you know, non-New York locations.
And it's like because the fourth one, he ends up in Paris, doesn't he? Because there's a motorcycle fight chase around the Arc de Triomphe. And the trouble is there's only especially in the fourth one, there's this set of stairs that he has to be at the top at by sunrise, and there's about 10 minutes to go. and there's about 20 minutes of them shoving him down the stairs again, and him like massive flight of stairs. It would kill anyone rolling down it once. After he's killed about 300 people in the past 8 hours, and continuously getting back up it. It's ridiculous.
And again, the video of his stuntman doing that stunt. I think he did it 3 or 4 times. It's an incredible like physical feat, and I'm amazed he's not dead.
Yeah, is it the 8th or 9th Fast and Furious where he turns around and goes, "We're literally superheroes, like we can't die," kind of thing? Yeah, that is Keanu Reeves. The first one is really nicely done.
Well, and one good thing about 1 is I personally hate all of the like the world stuff that ends up so much in the. I've only seen 2 and 3. I've not seen 4. And I don't remember 2 and 3 at all. So, for 1, I like that it's scaled back. They don't talk about his past much at all. We just vaguely know he was an assassin, and it takes a while to really kind of get that out too. And it really just kind of sticks with the story of who he is right now, and who he is right now is a retired hitman. He had a wife, but she died. He watches her videos, sadly, on his iPhone in his white room and his white bathroom because his world is bleak. The set like lighting and stuff in this is incredible. And whenever I was ragging on Suspiria for its looking good but having no character, this movie is like elevated Suspiria for me. If Suspiria had a character at the level of John Wick, I would have been more satisfied. But the character John Wick, he gets a gift from his wife. It's a little puppy. Well, who doesn't love little puppies? And he's living his little life with his puppy, and he has a cool Mustang. And who doesn't love cool Mustangs with loud engines? Those shots of him drifting in the movie, that's Keanu drifting. That's fun. I didn't know that. He did so much of the stunt work.
He obviously heard about Tom Cruise doing everything. I was like, no, I'm gonna top that.
Of course,
an aeroplane in John Wick 5, please.
I'm a few years younger than Cruise, so I can do anything he can do for sure.
Unfortunately, he runs into Theon Greyjoy before he got captured by Ramsey. And he's like, "Oh, hey," he's speaking in Russian instead of British, but he's like, "Hey, nice car. How much?" "Oh, it's not for sale." "Well, everything has a price," pets dog ominously. And so what happens? Alfie Allen and his gang of probably not Russians come to John Wick's house. They beat him up. They murder his dog. They didn't actually kill the dog, by the way. We should point that out.
No dogs were harmed in the making of this.
And steal his car.
Yeah, I mean the classic kind of thing of that. If you want to really hate them and really detest someone, what better way to do that than depict them killing a dog? I mean,
yeah. So that's one problem I do have with this, and the Equalizer is how comically bad they make the bad guys. But I don't need justification to watch someone murder people for hours. I watch like Saw and stuff. Like I watch violent films. But I guess it does help. You can actually root for them instead of just be like, I want spectacle. But yeah, Alfie Allen kills or has somebody kill a dog, and that's where Margaret's favorite scene pops up with John Leguizamo runs a chop shop, and they call him up and they say, he goes to see him, and he's relaying the story to John Wick. Originally, apparently, that scene was not intercut. It was boom, boom. And the editor, whenever they were in editing, was like, hey, we should intercut this, and they do. So it's like John Leguizamo telling the story as we watch. And then, he goes to the dad, and the dad's like, Alfie Allen, what have you done? You are so screwed.
The guy playing dad, also not a Russian. I think he's Swedish.
He's Swedish.
Welcome to America, where we just take anybody with a vaguely European accent that's not British, and they can do a Russian impression.
Yeah, if you're British, you're a European in our movies. That's how it works.
No, we're not. If we're British, we're a bad guy, just with a British accent.
I said European, same thing.
And when I say British accent, I mean a stereotypically posh English accent. Like somebody from, in the nicest way, Sam, somebody with your accent is not going to be the bad guy for a major action movie. You know what I mean? Like it's just not going to happen.
Gone in 60 Seconds. Chris Eccleston's the bad guy.
And the other great intercut is as Vigo, the dad, is telling Alfie Allen how screwed he is. That's when John Wick has the horror movie shot standing at the top of the stairs, walking down, destroying the floor to get out his cache of guns and silly-looking gold coins, which I still think is stupid, but whatever.
I mean, the idea apparently with the whole gold coins and the way the world works, at least in the first one, apparently they kind of were inspired by Stephen King, in that you just leave breadcrumbs and ideas and the fills in the blanks. The trouble is, anyone that's read any amount of Stephen King knows that is the exact opposite of how Stephen King works. In that Stephen King will give you 3 pages of anecdote backstory for everything he can find, like just to stretch his books out. Like that's the entire thing. I remember reading something, I think it might have been on Wiki or something like that, or an article somewhere. I'm like, what do you mean Stephen King just left breadcrumbs of ideas and just left it like that? No, Stephen King will go into detail on absolutely everything. Maybe we're talking about the 3rd film and the 4th film. I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know if it works if they're trying to make it grounded.
And I think it also is because the guy who runs, or is the concierge or whatever, the Continental, his name is Caron. Like, it's probably the eyes over, the coins over eyes as you go into the underworld, but...
R.I.P. to that guy.
Yeah, Lance Reddick.
Yeah.
So good in The Wire.
Yeah.
That's all I know him from this and The Wire. Sorry, Lance. And
just quickly on him, when Ballerina comes out, which is the John Wick spin-off that's apparently coming out next year, although they're getting people in to do reboots and reshoots, that will be Lance Reddick's final film role, because he shot all this stuff before he passed. So I'm fairly sure there will be a
imagine your final role being in a Len Wiseman film. Jesus Christ. Poor guy.
Well, and
it's depressing.
That's when John he drives from New Jersey, because that's, you move out to the suburbs when you're getting out of that hectic city life of being an assassin, and he goes to New York. Of course, he had to get a Camaro in order to get out to the city. He also ends up with a Dodge Charger, which he will use to drive SUVs off of cliffs and kill people.
Best useful one, I think.
Yeah, that's why I buy my cars. I don't know about you guys. Maybe that's why y'all have so much public transport. Like, worried about car killings.
Me out in the States does not have public transport. Don't worry.
But John Wick shows up at the Continental, and that's where, like the film, because I'm not interested in that stuff and it's kind of silly to me. Like, I've lost a little bit, but he does go to the cool bar with all the pretty colors, and he finds out, I need to go to the cool action set piece with even better lighting, which is the red circle.
I was going to say, this film, I think, does start the recent trend that's happened in the last, 10 years of every kind of one person against many action film must have a scene set in a nightclub of some kind, with some neon kind of going around.
I think I'm thinking right. Say every John Wick film has a club action scene.
I'm fairly sure Atomic Blonde has that kind of aesthetic in various places. Possibly one of the Mission Impossibles that's come out recently has something like it.
Dead Reckoning has a club action scene. And
Ava does as well. This is where I first noticed it, because I was hating it so much. I tried to come up with interesting things. It's just a thing now. John Wick has started it, and every action movie has to go to a club.
I want to know, is this the best action scene in the movie for you guys? Because it's definitely the longest sequence. But do you think it is the best action in the film?
It's either this or the initial housebreak for me.
I'd probably go for the initial house scene.
We are all in agreement. I would also go the housebreak.
Even if it's just the ending of the housebreak where the policeman turns up and is like, "Evening, John." It's like, Noise complaint. Noise
But
complaint.
it's like
You working again? It's just bodies. It's like, yeah, working again.
To establish so confident like a genuinely new action grammar in terms of how he moves, how he uses the gun and stuff. You've never seen anything quite like that before. I think they work real hard to kind of just develop that. All the double taps. It's very.
For me, it's the uncut shot, like right at the end where he has to wrestle with that guy for the knife.
Yeah.
Like that part is so awesome. I love the uncuts part.
Yeah, and I think that scene works the best because essentially of the 5 to 10 minutes of build up of John Wick before that. Once you get over the oh my god, everything else is kind of we're expecting this. At the beginning of the film, he's been completely ripped out of bed and beaten up out of absolutely nowhere. He's offered no resistance kind of thing. And then you have the whole thing of he stole John Wick's car, and it's like, oh my god, John Leguizamo, where did you get that car? It's like, we nicked it off his guy. It's like, you're screwed,
I really
thing.
I really don't understand why John Leguizamo hasn't made another appearance in this franchise yet.
They can't afford it.
Maybe he will in Ballerina. But I think it's a bit like Hannibal Lecter, where you get given like 5 minutes of build-up before his initial appearance.
I thought even John Leguizamo. He's the Hannibal Lecter.
Well, no. With Chilton,
it's only on screen for 5 minutes.
He's probably got about the same amount of screen time.
Yeah. But with this, you have that bit in the chop shop. You have the whole thing with the conversation on the roof. Or it's like, I heard you struck my son. It's like, I did. You mind telling me why? It's like, he stole John Wick's car and killed his dog. It's like, and then you have all the build-up. You have the shots of him going down and breaking everything out, and the phone call to John Wick and everything like that. That's like 5-10 minutes purely of build-up. And then everyone breaks in and Keanu Reeves just, like, decimates them. And it's professional, honed. And I think that is the reason why it works, is because you've got all that before it. Everything else after that is just a very nice stylized action sequence.
Yeah, the red circle is amazing, it's so impressive. Like the fact that it's able to move through all of those different portions of the club, from the bathhouse to the dance floor to the area where all those guys in red shirts are, to the VIP upstairs, and it's able to keep me interested. It's got all these different ways to kill people, all the gun changing, all the different assailants, the big naked guy or guy in a Speedo, like just getting absolutely murdered.
One thing I will say that I really like about this, I'm not sure how they worked it for other languages, is that the subtitles are kind of baked in the stylized kind of font and the effects, everything, into the actual thing itself, rather than added on in a file after. I don't know how they've done that, if they've done it specifically, because if you've got 30 languages, you have to bake those into the thing, rather than essentially what I was doing for a job, which is you give the original file to somebody with a script and you time a file to that after, depending on your language.
Do they not just show it in English and then subtitle the subtitles in a foreign language? Like, that's what I would think.
I don't know, because if you're putting the subtitles of somebody in a foreign language speaking in English, normally what you do is you just put it in a different file, and depending on your language, you boot up a different file. But you've baked it in here into the actual film itself.
I mean that's another thing I've kind of seen, kind of the rise of more recent years, kind of this attitude that in Hollywood, kind of American audiences don't respond well to subtitles. It's too much like hard work. So you make them, if you do have to have them sometimes in like your genre film, whether it's a sci-fi film with like alien languages, or an action film with like characters from other countries, you make them look more stylistically interesting. And as Kieran says, they're kind of they're noticeable. They kind of they look good. They look they're noticeable. So
they are part of the film rather than just an aid to understanding
it. They grab your attention.
I would assume if you're a Spanish speaker watching this, you just get the Spanish translation of the Russian and English subtitle at the bottom, because, like you said, it's baked in to create the graphic novel style. So I'm assuming they don't have bienvenidos.
I can find out because I've got the films on my iPad, and I can switch on some other subtitles and see what it looks like.
Well, and for the opening of that scene too, where they pointed out how he sort of nonsensically emerges from the shadows to say, "Hey, how about you take the night off, Francis?" Which it really struck me. I was like, so he's in this really well lit area. Where's John Wick coming from? It doesn't matter, but
That's not the point. He's the boogeyman, you know. Like, he is Michael Myers.
yeah.
That is something I've said for years that I want to see. I want to see Michael Myers versus John Wick, of the boogeyman versus the boogeyman. Both of them you can't kill. That is obviously the thing we need.
Unfortunately, the movie, I kind of lose it after the red circle in terms of what's happening, because it has the scene where he gets fought in his hotel room by an assassin, and then she escapes and kills another guy from The Wire, and then
There's the bit in the church as well.
I like the church part, and then I like when John Wick gets captured, because there's actually a little bit of tension there, but
Yeah, and again, that's the thing that the Equalizer doesn't have. Like, at no point do you ever think he might be in any kind of danger. Here, at least he does get captured once.
you think Willem Dafoe might shoot him for a second.
Yeah.
Like,
And he does take a fair few whacks
By the way,
towards the end.
One thing I can't forgive this film for is wasting their Willem Dafoe. It's a pretty thankless role for him, really.
yeah, he does
be
get a
honest,
cool murder scene, though.
I was going to say, I
Yeah.
have seen this movie all the way through once, but to be honest, if I ever watch scenes, it's from like the first half.
Yeah.
And I know he kind of like kills a load of people in the end, and then at the end he goes and gets himself a new dog, but that's about it. I couldn't tell you specifics, I couldn't tell you lines, like they kind of all blurs into one,
Yeah.
like, because the setup for it is so good.
So
Like,
I wish the scene where he kills Yosef was a bit longer, because there's all the guards protecting. That's Alfie Allen, Yosef. He's being protected. We see him kill a couple guys outside, then we see him snipe some people, and then the shot where he finally kills Alfie Allen. It's a one shot. They pull back. He walks out into the frame. He shoots Alfie Allen. He falls down and dies. There's no reverse shot or anything. And then he walks away. The camera sort of loses focus. And it's awesome. But then the movie's not over because he has to go kill the big bad Russian guy.
yeah, who has literally, like, only doing this because it's his son, not because out of any sense of guilt. Because he literally goes to him and it's just like, this is your fault. You're going to pay for it. Like, oh, you've done nothing. Get the hell out of my sight. The only reason I'm doing anything for you is because we're blood relations. If you were just like a regular henchman, I'd just completely ignore that you exist. Sort yourself out. I'm not involved, kind of thing.
That's why I do love Vigo. He's not comically evil. He is like a bit reluctant to help out his son for making a really stupid decision. I think he's a cool character, especially when you compare him to Pushkin in Equalizer, who is just a guy on the other side of the phone and then dead at the end for no reason.
Yeah, Vigo at least kind of, you know, he's set up the organization. He's got history with John Wick. He phones him up, and he, like, the first thing he does, he goes, well, he's got knowledge, because when he says, when Yosef comes in and he finds out that kind of killed his dog and stolen his car, he already knows that a few days or weeks before that, John Wick's wife has died. So he's obviously still in the loop and still kind of keeping tabs on John Wick. So it's not like he's kind of completely forgotten this is an unknown. And obviously John Wick did all the stuff that got him the industry. So when he's on the phone call, he goes, "Hi, John." It's like the first thing he says is going, "I heard about your wife. I'm so sorry about that." And it sounds like stereotypical bad thing to say, but at the same time, not in a kind of an evil way, but, you know, trying to calm a situation. At the same time, you go, it could actually probably be genuine. Like,
Yeah. There's very much it's not personal, it's business to Vigo. That's nice.
Yeah, this is essentially, I know he did some awful things, but he's my son. Can we not have the fighting? We can sort this out. Like, there's not an immediate kind of, oh, there's somebody that's got in my way, I'm going to kill him. There is we know we've screwed up. And when you're the head of the big Russian mafia boss and you go, we've screwed up, it makes it a more interesting dynamic, I think, and it's something that the others don't really have, because Vigo is interesting because he's not all powerful.
Yeah.
Unlike John Wick.
Unlike John Wick.
The end with the bumper cars, like I don't know, it was all right. I guess they'd sort of run out of ways to kill people because they had killed so many.
And I think in any other film, kind of the second half of this would just be kind of all right. With this film, with John Wick, the stylization and the direction and Keanu Reeves being Keanu Reeves is so good that it can manage to make it much better than it actually should be. In any other film, this would be just a bog standard action sequence. Here, it's actually okay, but really fun to watch and entertaining at the same time, even if it's not an all-time classic kind of ending for a film.
And the one other thing, the second to last guy that gets killed, I call him the second in command henchman, but Wikipedia says he is Vigo's attorney, played by Dean Winters. Dean Winters in the U.S. is known for being in Allstate insurance commercials where he plays Mayhem, and Mayhem is, just whatever is affecting your house or life in a negative way that you then need insurance to pay for. So I've seen him in this, SVU, and a million commercials. Every Sunday I see him on my TV. So it's very distracting, but he's good. I like him in this. And the two directors were just praising him every chance they had. He's great at smoking and drinking in backgrounds to destroy continuity, apparently.
You forgot to mention
he put a cigarette out on Vigo's arm at one point. So look for that in the scene where Alfie comes and's like, yeah, I stole a car, what about it? Oh, my son. In that scene, he does that.
We forgot to mention that there is somebody who is in both of the films.
Yes. Tate Fletcher, the mustache man, who runs around with guns and isn't a named character, as far as I'm aware.
I mean, there's another link as well, a more tangential link. Alfie Allen is the brother of Lily Allen, who's married to David Harbour. So,
I didn't know that. I do know the song that's about Alfie Allen.
It's almost like all this stuff was planned.
Yeah.
Imagine being a wax mustache, muscly hipster in 2014 and getting to be in two great, high-grossing action movies. What a great year.
I was going to say, trying to beat up Keanu Reeves in one and Denzel Washington in another, in the same year. That's impressive. Almost as impressive. One of my favorite things of Sarah Michelle Gellar being in two films written by Kevin Williamson in the same year, slasher films in the same year, and getting killed off in both of them.
Yeah.
In Scream 2, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm gonna wrap the John Wick up, but and move on to Kingsman because our time is going to fly away with us. But I'm gonna do something which we haven't done in ages, and I'm gonna ask Jacob. 1 to 10 for John Wick. What would you give it?
I mean, it's a 7. I like it. I think it's good. I don't think it's the best thing ever either. But yeah, personally, if I'm going to watch an action movie, I'm gonna watch the Fast and Furious over this. So.
Oh my god, we should just take his Fast and Furious.
I know.
We're losing. He's having network connectivity issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my connection's unstable.
Yeah.
Sam, are you giving it a 6?
No, I would probably give it a 7 as well. The first one,
Yeah, it's weird. I think the first half of it is like a 9, and the second half is like a 5. So it kind of.
I would have. Yeah, I mean, I might have given the Equalizer a 7 as well, mostly for the first half. But yeah.
And just very quickly before we move on from John Wick, if anybody is interested, on May 22nd, 2019, so nearly 5.5 years ago, there was an article put on the Film magazine called "A Textual Analysis of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum," by somebody who apparently can only barely remember
3 is
the film.
Parabellum? I thought that was
Yes.
4.
No,
Wow.
by somebody who can barely remember the film, Mr. Jacob Davis.
Well, when I saw it, I remembered it. Like,
Yeah, essentially, 3.
it's been
is
5.5
one-
years, apparently.
Yeah, 3 is the one where Johan Ryuan is one of the bad guys. 4 has Jet Li and Hiroyuki Sanada in it.
Yeah, I remember 3 as the one with Halle Berry and her dogs.
I remember 3, he kills Boban Marjanovic with a book, so...
The second one's where he kills 3 people with a pencil, isn't it? Right at the end.
Spoilers.
Second one, I must remember as him and Common walking through a shopping mall and craftily shooting at each other.
Yeah, I seem to
I don't
remember him
any of
falling off a
this.
building near the end as well.
And then there's a blatant Enter the Dragon rip-off, the fight in the Hall of Mirrors at the end.
Morpheus is in these for some reason out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He is nowhere to be seen.
I still don't really know what the Bowery King brings to any of this, really. It's just,
It brings Lawrence Fishburne. That's what it does.
yeah. We haven't mentioned Ian McShane. I mean, if you're going to have someone to kind of, just kind of give some really kind of nice sounding exposition and look slightly seedy while doing it, then he's your guy.
Real quick, I know we need to move on, but how does he make money that isn't gold coins in order to, like, fund this hotel? Because the entire economy of that place runs off gold coins.
Yeah, I would guess that the gold coins are the equivalent of almost like poker chips.
And
And
also-
it's converted into gold coins.
It's almost like if you impose real world logic on this franchise, it falls apart.
Are the valets and luggage carriers like assassins in training? Are they apprentices, or do they just work as hotel staff? I don't know.
If they're paid in gold coins, can they only spend it at the hotel?
No,
Do they
the
live
hotels-
there?
The hotel staff is actually just made up of all the kids that, like, the assassins there have killed the family, gone to kill the kid, and had a change of heart right at the last moment, and so have given them a new life by working at the hotel.
Oh, great.
That's what I choose to believe. Who knows? We might find out in the new John Wick film that comes out next year. With hopefully, it does not completely derail Ana de Armas's career.
Oh, I don't make her money, at least. That's a plus.
Yeah, but we said that about Furiosa, so
I'm sure she
Yeah.
got paid. I mean,
Yeah, Annie Taylor-Joy will be fine.
yeah.
she got her money on the front end. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, talking about movies with ridiculously stacked casts.
Hell yeah.
I
And stylized.
yeah. Before we start, I do believe that in the sort of 21st century, 2 of maybe the top 5 films with the most stacked casts are Kingsman: The Secret Service. I will take Secret Service over the others just because it's just to start it off. And Hot Fuzz also has a stacked lineup. Both of them do, but Kingsman is ridiculous.
It is.
You're underselling Fast 5.
Yeah. So this is Matthew Vaughn's kind of revisionist spy film. Basically, it's his tribute to the Bond franchise, especially, but spy films in general, and especially back when they were kind of a bit silly but very stylish. I think he's Professor's love of the Roger Moore era of Bond films in particular.
I just saw how much money this movie made. Holy cow!
I mean, and considering it's not a mega budget film, it's about 90 million, I think 90 something million, and it made back 400 and something. It's so no wonder it kicks off franchise. But I'd probably suggest they need a stronger idea if they do find a third installment with Eggsy again. They need to get back on the horse, 'cause it's not been great from this one onwards.
I was going to say very, very quickly, if you want to go hear us talk about The Kingsman, which was the prequel / third film, it is somewhere.
That was released to streaming a couple of Christmases ago.
If you want to go find that, it's somewhere. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Go have a look and find it. We have discussed that one.
Yeah, none of us likes it.
No. The Rasputin scene was the best thing about it.
Yeah. But back when this was a good thing, yeah, this definitely the first one's definitely the strongest. So it's the story of Eggsy, who's a wrong un living on a tough council estate in London, and he gets selected by a secret spy organization to enter their training program to become a Kingsman agent. And guy selects him is Harry Hart, aka Galahad, who's sees his potential through his his rough exterior and puts him forward as a candidate. And Eggsy's basically going to train with a number of other young hopefuls to become a spy. All the while, a dastardly billionaire played by Sam Jackson is hatching a plan to essentially he's an environmentalist. So, and again, this is another trope we've seen quite a bit in recent years. Bad guys using global warming as an excuse to kill a lot of people. So yeah, his plan essentially is to give everyone a free SIM card that gives them unlimited data forever, and then when he sets off a particular signal, it unleashes a blood rage within a lot of people, and they attack each other and thereby take the population down to safe levels. So.
I will also say that bringing this back into John Wick through Keanu Reeves, Samuel L. Jackson claims that essentially mankind is a bit like a virus, which is also what Keanu. Agent Smith says to Morpheus, isn't it? Going through Keanu Reeves again. Everything links together. It's almost like this is planned.
Yeah. This was an interesting one because it was we'd never seen Colin Firth in a role quite like this before.
He had a fight scene in Bridget Jones's Diary.
Yeah, you think of him kind of the same role. I mean, similar to what's happened with Hugh Grant in recent years. They've both kind of had a bit of a interesting kind of direction in their career. Kind of taking on bolder, kind of different roles to what we're kind of used to. They're not just like bumbling Brits in rom-coms anymore. They're kind of, I mean, you'd never think Colin Firth would be able to handle himself physically, but he really threw himself into like the fight training, and he's convincing as a killer in this, amazingly. I mean, the thing like the Kingsman agents, they're an independent like spy organization, but they came about theoretically they came about from World War One, and we do see this in the Kingsman, where basically a lot of the ruling class in Britain, a lot of the aristocrats lost their heirs to the war, so they had to basically refilled kind of the ranks of people to defend the country. So and they're almost like the new knights, modern day knights. And there's a line about the suit is the modern gentleman. So it's the modern gentleman's armor, and we are the new knights. Something on those lines.
They're all named after the Knights of the Round Table, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like the part where they sing about Camelot. That's my favorite part of this movie.
Hilariously enough, that's the T-shirt I've got on for a band called Camelot that I saw last week.
Yeah. So the film it opens with basically a Kingsman mission going wrong. Later it's Eggsy's dad is an agent in training. It's like his final kind of final task before he's declared a full Kingsman agent. And he notices that they're somewhere in the Middle East, I think, and he dives on a grenade and saves the squad's life, but obviously sacrificed his own. And Harry Hart was on that mission. He was training Eggsy's dad up basically, and kind of out of guilt of kind of what happened there. That he kind of gives his son, it was now off. Now it's obviously lost his dad. His mum's still alive, but gives his son like a chance, to kind of better himself, and get out of his kind of less than inspiring kind of daily life and make something better for himself. I mean, Kingsman agents, they use, they've got bulletproof suits and lots of gadgets tied to kind of the various accoutrements of being like an English gentleman. So your Oxford shoes. You're open. They
I hope they're not wearing open-toed shoes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is open lace shoes. Things I describe. So like formal open lace shoes at your Oxfords. You got your umbrella. You've got your signet ring, which is all these gadgets like powered into like all these kind of things that you have if you're a gentleman. It's like what they did with the Bond films, but kind of more modern. And there's a nice line where they're looking at like all the things. So you got a signet ring which shocks people. You got a shoe with like a poison blade in the toe. You got I think a lighter that's like a hand grenade.
Yeah.
But then they can point to a wall like full of like smartphones and iPads, because what's special about them? Oh, nothing. Their technology's caught up to the spy world.
And I would that is genuinely something I thought of when I saw it's Ghost Protocol, isn't it? The fourth Mission
Yeah,
Impossible,
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
beforehand you used to have like a little gadget clock countdown kind of thing.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
everything works via iPad. You know, they have like
yeah,
invisibility screens going off an app
yeah,
kind of thing, and it's like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
genuinely doing it.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah. And key part of like their look and kind of their kind of arsenal of things to use, in the field is they'll wear some very distinct glasses, which have like a feed in real live mission data and like give like heads up displays and stuff. And that's obviously goes back to, notably, Michael Caine plays the leader of the Kingsmen in this, wearing those glasses, and which he essentially originated with the role of Harry Palmer and the Ipcris file. So
I was
I mean,
hoping you
it's
were going to
full
say
of
the
like
Knights of the Round Table wore them.
it's like there's like all these kind of knowing references, to spy movies, from the past, but doing it with more swearing and ultra violence. Essentially, that's the main difference here. I mean, my favorite action scene in this is definitely Colin Firth's first big action scene. So where he meets Eggsy at a pub, and Eggsy's horrible. His mum's horrible boyfriend comes in and starts threatening him because Eggsy's stole his car earlier in the film, and he's Harry basically kind of tells him to leave, and him and his goons threaten him. So he rather than leaving him to finish his lovely pint of Guinness, he makes like he's going to exit the pub and then locks the doors.
Yep.
And
Very Equalizer.
Yeah, and then it's a very, very cool action scene, mostly using his umbrella and his signet ring. I mean, I've got to give props to whenever I can. I've always got to give props to Brad Allen, who's the who's the stunt coordinator. He was an Australian protege of Jackie Chan, and he's basically worked on. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but I think Argyle was his final film, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, so Argyle didn't work, but it's still got some striking kind of action scenes for me. And I think that kind of still shone through. But
No, you were saying that how awful for Lance Reddick's final role to be in a Len
yeah,
Wiseman film. I think
yeah,
his final
learning
thing to be
career on
Argyle is
yeah,
just
yeah,
as bad.
yeah. But he works on all of Vaughn's action movies. So all the Kingsman movies, Kick-Ass, and I don't know. He might not have done the X-Men films, but
Did he do the Batman?
He spoke to. He's done Vaughan a few times, but yeah, he also worked with Jackie Chan on Rush Hour and Shanghai Nights, with Del Toro on Hellboy 2 and Pacific Rim, and with Edgar Wright on Scott Pilgrim and World's End. But his fights are very kind of distinctive. They're they're very kind of propulsive and kinetic, and kind of compared with that quite dynamic camera movement, kind of quite kind of big movements in your fight scenes. It's they're quite memorable. I mean, just the way Colin Firth in that scene, used his environment and his gadgets and stuff, and just how it's almost like you're being slammed like into like people as they're taking the punches.
Yeah.
It's like you can really kind of feel like the hits. It's I mean, I've never quite worked out kind of how it's actually filmed, whether kind of there's some CG trickery involved as well, but because it almost looks kind of unreal at times. So I think that's kind of intentional. so you've got that big fight scene. You've got the infamous scene of Colin Firth later on, who's triggered by Valentine, Sam Jackson's character's signal, basically to slaughter a church full of Southern Baptists.
Yeah.
Well, when you said favorite fight scene, I was very concerned that you didn't say the church scene.
No. I mean, it's still, I think even now, obviously, it's kind of cathartic to an extent, but even now it is a shocking scene, and it's the point of the film where there's complete kind of changes. Like certain films, they're a certain level up to a point, and then they kick into high gear, and it's like never the same from that onwards. And this is one of those. I think it's. When they had to tone down like the amount of blood and kind of they had to edit it a fair bit, I think, to get through. But even so, it's still quite brutal. Yeah. I mean, he impales a guy with is it with a flag or with a cross? I can't remember how sacrilegious it is, but he impales him with. He tells you have something. He sets a guy's head on fire with his lighter.
He kills 40 people to Freebird. And like, I don't think you could have picked a more hectic song to play in that.
Yeah, and before that, because he's there, like on a mission to gather intelligence, because he thinks this is kind of this church has something to do with Valentine's like big plan, as he's about to leave after a particularly offensive sermon, he just baits them, and he just says, "I'm a Catholic whore currently enjoying Congress out of wedlock with my black Jewish boyfriend who works for a military abortion clinic. So hail Satan. And have a lovely afternoon."
I mean, I've obviously used Hail Satan and have a lovely afternoon many times over my life.
Well, Sam, it's funny you mentioned that he's triggered by the Sam Jackson device, and I forgot that he's also affected by that. I just remembered everybody else in the room is activated. But yeah, he is also affected in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's good kind of indicator of like, he's so well trained that just basically once that switch goes, he's just unstoppable, basically. Just kind of sees like a red mist, and like the average person seeing that red mist will just he sees kind of the people fighting on a beach, like, just rolling around the sand and stuff, and not really doing much damage to each other. But yeah, if Harry Hart gets this signal, then he's a deadly weapon.
It's nice too that it has like the long shot to open it, uncut, and then it has 1 second of glasses. It has a little bit of Sam Jackson watching, but a lot of it is uncut, which is cool.
Yeah, and Sam Jackson having to look away because his thing, because being like a Bond-style villain, obviously, when he got a speech impediment, Sam Jackson apparently just decided this guy would have a lisp. He didn't tell Vaughn like before, and just started doing it. And Vaughn Kirk says, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, a bit more interesting." He goes, "Yeah, you're probably right. Go ahead." But he's also got an aversion to blood, so he gets violently ill if he sees blood, despite causing like tens of thousands, not millions of deaths across the world.
By the way, Lance Reddick did the same thing in John Wick. He just decided to do an African accent.
Yeah, and again, a classic kind of style spy film. You gotta have a colourful henchman as well, and that comes in the form of a Gazelle, played by Sofia Boutella, who has bladed leg prostheses. So. She used to great effect. Again, she was a dancer before she was an actor, so that physicality kind of helps with those movements. But they a dark turn. They considered Oscar Pistorius for that role, so they could do the
wow.
So they could do the leg thing for real. Because in the comic, it's a male character, and they gender flipped it for the film. And then once they realized it might not be, when the trial happened, I think they obviously stopped doing that. They were still looking at Paralympians potentially, but unfortunately the filming of it kind of clashed with the build up to the Paralympics at the time, so they couldn't get any actual kind of amputee athletes involved. So they just did it with CG in the end.
I like the fact, admittedly, with Sofia Boutella, since doing this, she's gone and been in some like ridiculously big stuff. So after this, Next, she was in Star Trek Beyond. She then was the mummy in The Mummy. I'm so sorry for her. But the same year, she was also in Atomic Blonde, and she got archival footage from Kingsman
the
2.
huge film climax, of course.
Yeah.
But then she's also in like Del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosity. She's been in the Rebel Moon films. She was unfortunately in Argyle. But like
You could say unfortunately in Rebel Moon.
Yeah. If you reel off her filmography, it seems like kind of good, bad, good, bad, good, bad.
But at least they're big and probably get a decent paycheck.
She's sort of doing like a Nicolas Cage kind of thing of her career, isn't she? Just kind of pretty much 50-50.
Shyamalan direction.
Yeah. So you have like an extended period of this where basically all the recruits to the Kingsman, is basically like their training program, like the various kind of war games they play for different tasks and stuff, which are kind of quite interesting. Obviously, you get to know all of them. They're all kind of public school kind of poshos, basically, apart from Eggsy. I mean, there's a sort of gag which kind of no non-Brit would get, but kind of when they're kind of introducing each other, and kind of so they're all from studies at Cambridge or Oxford generally, and then they notice Eggsy's a bit rougher, and they're trying to work him out at first, and they theorize that, he must have studied at St Andrews, which for people outside the UK, basically it's still a top level university, probably only just behind Oxford and Cambridge, but compared to Oxford and Cambridge, it's seen as like the rough ones. So, but then they insult the guy. Say, "Oh no, actually, no, I do know you. Didn't you serve me fries at the at the service station?"
Oh, total.
3 weeks ago.
It's the Texas Tech to Texas and Texas A&M. I get it.
Yeah. So obviously there's like a lot of kind of big kind of references, to like well-known spy moves and stuff like that. Just going back to the training, kind of the training montage or the training kind of sequence. So the one of the first things happens to them is they're all sleeping in like their bunks, and then the room starts flooding, and they've got to escape in time to go work out that there's a two-way mirror in front of them that can be broken, and they can also get a tube, round a U-bend of the toilet, to get air. Apparently that scene went terribly wrong the first time they did it. It's like a really complex, expensive scene, and they just couldn't mistimed it. And basically, before they'd even read the shot, like the whole room flooded and kind of flooded, the actors, the crew, the equipment, everything, and there was a general danger of people possibly drowning. So they hadn't worked out like the safety precautions. So I think Matthew Vaughn says that was like one of the first days on set. It wasn't the best start to it all. Nearly killing like most people on set that day. Apparently, Mark Strong, who plays Merlin, who's basically the Q kind of character, he's the trainer for the Kingsman recruits, but he also provides all the gadgets, and tech support, for the organisation. Apparently, Matthew Vaughn wanted him to do a Welsh accent, reference to like Merlin's like origins in like Arthurian legends.
So despite the fact that the main character is played by somebody that lived in Wales since he was 2 years old and speaks Welsh fluently, they wanted the other Englishman to speak in a Welsh accent.
Yes. But Mark Strong responded that he couldn't do a Welsh accent, so that's why he's Scottish.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Mark Wick, Welsh accent.
Yeah.
Probably not good.
Well, my favorite thing about this movie is Eggsy has a pug.
Yes. Again, another part of the training.
Dog,
is they're all given a dog to be their companion of their training, and then when their final test is, they're asked to shoot the dog and show them their loyalty. And they're all kind of they'll pick their dog, and Egg's looking particularly smug, and he's convinced it's just it's a bulldog puppy that will get bigger, but no, it's just the pug. There's a great shot of them on maneuvers running in slow motion, and JB his pug kind of bouncing up and down out of his collar, because he can't keep up with his running.
Oh, pugs are surprisingly athletic, just so everybody knows. They have small faces, big hearts.
Probably unless it decides it doesn't want to move, in which case you can't get it to move.
Yeah.
It's
This
true.
is another. This is another comic book adaptation, although slightly different to Kick-Ass. 'Cause Kick-Ass, also by Mark Miller, had been around for a few years before Matthew Vaughn did his adaptation. But this, it was essentially written for the screen reel, so it's only came out a few months before the film versions. They're almost like made in tandem, So, um, but despite this, I think it went in a slightly different direction to the comic version. That there were some key scenes that kind of are in both, but not many of the characters are kind of shared in both versions.
I was going to say I haven't actually read the comics, but it's not actually Kingsman in the comic, is it? It's
No,
just a Secret
no,
Service.
it is. Yeah. And apparently it was inspired. Mark Miller was inspired to write it by an article about casting James Bond for Doctor No, because Sean Connery was famously not one of the first choices, and they thought kind of. How could this kind of brute from Glasgow kind of ever be like a gentleman spy? But and that was kind of Ian Fleming's words essentially. He couldn't visualize it at all. But apparently, Terrence Young, who voiced who kind of directed Doctor No, and he took Sean Connery out, basically gave him like lessons in being a gentleman, how to behave in a fine dining establishment, all the little rules can be followed, everything like that.
And I'm picturing Sean Connery wearing flat-billed hats and layers of clothes.
Yeah. I mean, literally, he worked on the docks in Glasgow like before he became an actor. It was like he couldn't be more kind of working class if he tried. Interestingly, Matthew Vaughn is technically an aristocrat, so you think kind of he's this a lot of this kind of his kind of digs at kind of the upper classes in the UK kind of come from a kind of a place of truth. Really, it's I mean, his full name is Matthew Allard de Vere Drummond, and he descends from like nobility, essentially. But for years he thought he was the secret love child of Robert Vaughan, but turned out not to be true. He was the secret love child of a rich banker who descended from nobility. So, yeah, I know.
Or rich him.
Yeah. I mean, a big part of this is Harrigan teaching Eggsy how to be a gentleman, how to obviously, how to do the job, how to be a trained spy, but also how to carry himself and how to conduct himself, kind of in his life.
I mean, the funny thing is that sorry, on the training him to be a gentleman kind of spy thing. A lot of actual spies have gone like, if James Bond was an actual spy, he'd be awful, because everyone would be able to spot that he was a spy because of the way he's dressed and carries himself.
And he also introduced himself as James Bond everywhere. So.
But there's the way he's dressed. A normal spy would be dressed in civvies, not in a suit.
Yeah. I mean, at least Harry Hart, gives himself a couple of aliases in this. But if you're on the website, apparently there's the 6 rules of being a Kingsman. So number 1, a gentleman never tells about conquests, private matters, or dealings. His business is nobody else's. Number 2, a gentleman doesn't clash in public with enemies or exes, or worse, with out-of-fashion contrasts, colours, or styles. Number 3, a gentleman is always happy to serve, whether it's opening the door, picking up the bill, or merely calling a taxi the next morning, asking for help and he cannot refuse. Number 4, a gentleman never reacts to rudeness. He pretends he doesn't recognise it and moves on like it never happens because it never should have. Number 5, a gentleman is always on target with witty remarks, interesting facts, and conversation starters that bring out the best out of everyone. And number 6, a gentleman asks non-invasive questions to help keep the conversation going and attention focused on others. He makes them feel like the most interesting person he's ever met, whether that's true or not. And then it'll kind of fall into this. Interestingly, Eggsy doesn't follow any of these rules in this film.
So that's why the anal sex joke is there. It's all explained now.
Yeah, and I'm sure he shows off about that afterwards as well. Yeah.
Wiki apparently reckoned that joke was that watching kind of old Bond movies, he reckoned most of the innuendos were from men, so he wanted to put one in from a woman. It's one of those ones where you understand it in principle.
It's all right because she suggests it. Okay, fair
It's
enough.
one of those ones where you understand it in principle, and the first time there's a bit of a laugh because of a shock factor,
Yeah,
but it's not actually great,
yeah,
especially to
yeah.
end the film, if that makes sense.
Yeah. My favorite kind of exchange in this is kind of just as he's about to like start his training. You know, they're looking. Kingsman hideout headquarters is under a tailor's shop on Savile Row in London, and these Harry's with Eggsy looking in the mirror and kind of asking what he sees, and to explain kind of what they're about to do, what their aim is, and kind of basically trying to get Eggsy to get the metaphor of Pygmalion, which has obviously been turned into many films over the years. So he says, "Did you see the film Trading Places?" Eggsy hasn't. "How about Nikita?" "Nope." "Pretty Woman?" And then he explains his point, and then Eggs comes out with, "Oh, like in My Fair Lady." So
There are beautiful moments. It's great.
yeah, it is a nice little moment.
And we haven't brought up the fact that Mark Hamill has a cameo in this for like
does,
2
yes.
scenes.
Yeah.
And also the Kingsman that originally tries to save him, I've forgotten his name, but it's Norrington from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes, it's Jack Davenport. Yes.
That's his name, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the first kind of scene where we see kind of the style the action's going to be. So there's like a lot of kind of dynamic movements and rolling and stuff like that, kind of using your momentum and stuff. Because literally, it's like a Swiss chalet, and he's basically just getting rid of like a room full of henchmen. So and he's kind of diving out the way and kind of incapacitating everyone, and then he's cut in two by Giselle from behind.
It really is nice, and the film in general has some really beautiful set pieces, and it's stupid, but it's well done stupid. And even like right at the end where they're setting off the earpieces or whatever it is, and so
to land of hope and glory.
yeah, doing colourful things where you got like a war room, Kubrick going off. It's like it's stupid and over the top, but that's the point.
Yeah, and that's sort of one of Vaughan's kind of trademarks. It's like I mean, he's good at selecting a needle drop, and his kind of his particular violent scenes they'll be very kind of memorable and colourful as well.
Yeah, Argyle. That is literally the last like 40 minutes of Argyle.
Yeah. Plus, I think having people's heads go off like colourful fireworks, rather than kind of scanners like gore fest probably helps keep it at 15 rather than 18 as well.
Gets around the sensors.
It does, yeah. I mean, I don't forget much I'll say about this. I've always enjoyed this. Like I said, I go back to it quite regularly. It's always a good time, and I think kind of as a premise of like do an old-fashioned style Bond film, but violent and more sweary is kind of a good kind of premise for an action movie. Yeah. It didn't they couldn't kind of keep it though, unfortunately. As we mentioned, Argyle, which established in the post credits, is technically in the Kingsman universe.
Yeah, it's a crossover,
which I kind of predicted because as soon as I heard it was a post credits scene, and it'll change kind of how you view the film. So, well, it can only be one thing, can't it? It's got to be a shared universe.
Here's the thing. I reviewed Argyle at the beginning of the year for the film magazine, and I disliked it so much that I walked out before the credit scene, before I knew there was one there. So it was only when I got home and I was typing up the review that I saw there was a post-credits or a mid-credit scene, because literally it cut to black and the first like 2 names came up. I'm like, right, I'm getting out of here. I hate this so much. It's not good. Golden Circle has moments, but is not a decent sequel.
Yeah, Golden Circle is kind of it's got bigger, shinier action, but it's kind of it doesn't really have the charm or the kind of the wits to it, or even kind of I don't even really know kind of what they're going for in terms of like the wider story. It's just a bit kind of unfocused and clumsy, really.
It's just somebody went to do that but bigger.
Yeah, I mean, giving Pedro Pascal like an electric whip is quite sorry, electric lasso is quite cool.
Yeah. And making cool, Julianne Moore a cannibal making burgers out of people is weird. Like,
so Samuel Jackson is in both of those movies playing different people.
Oh yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yes, which again was I think was kind of spoiled by it because I think when they said it's like this scene will change how you view the film, and plus it'll make you confused about the presence of a certain actor in this. Yeah,
I'm very
it's kind of
confused now.
strange.
Doesn't work.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
idea that when you see the trailers, this is for Argyle now, which has a crossover. When you see the trailers, you go, "This actually might be an interesting concept," and then you
yeah.
watch the film and you go, "It is 25 minutes too long to begin with."
And plus, the big twist. When I first saw the trailer and I said, "Oh, there's a big twist. Who is the real Agent Argyle?" And just from seeing the trailer, I said, "It's." I knew it was just so blindingly obvious. It's
Like it's one of those ones where it tries to have about 5 twists and it just keeps
yeah,
going, and it's just like,
yeah,
can we could just
yeah,
stop at a certain point? It
yeah,
keeps going. It goes, I have great style, I can keep this up and everyone will like it because
yeah,
of the style. It's like, this doesn't work.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not good.
and then you had the Kingsman, which is obviously a prequel, set around the time where the agency first started, set in World War One. I really dislike using that kind of Great War for kind of stuff like this, really, in terms of like.
If you want our full views on that, go find our podcast.
Yeah.
But it's just I think it's a bit tasteless. I think using like the most costly war in human history as like a fuel for your frivolous action scenes, really. And they set up Hitler as a post-credits villain like he's bloody Thanos. It's like, for God's sake.
Yes, there was one good kind of sequence in that with who is it? It's Rasputin.
Yeah, Risa fans as Rasputin.
That's it, yeah.
Who dance fights to like a dance remix of the 1812 overture.
Yeah, like that. Admittedly, like if Rasputin was the main bad guy for that movie, I'd take it. But it's not.
No. And this random kind of tangent, well, kind of probably quite.
I think Argyle was the tangent.
But there's a scene where so he's Valentine's triggering his SIM card, his deadly SIM cards with the satellites, and Roxy, one of the other recruits in this, like she's like the second lead at the young cast next to Taron Egerton.
She's the unofficial love interest that never becomes a proper love interest in this film.
And she set up like time again. This is one thing that annoys me about the film. Time again, is the best of the recruits. She's better than Eggsy. We see that she's the best of them, and they don't even really give her like a fight scene. She spends the whole final act in a balloon, basically trying to try, and especially she targets like one of Valentine's satellites and takes it out.
Is it Moonraker that does that kind of thing with the jetpack? It's Moonraker, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, when the satellite is taken out, he's trying to reestablish his signal, and he's saying, "So we'll bring that satellite over here," and it's like, "That's not my satellite." Well, who is this? Who's this? And he rings up saying, he says, "E, it's V." So basically, he's called up Elon for his satellite, basically. So he's off screen, but that's who he's meant to be calling. He's meant to be calling Elon Musk for a bit of help on the tech front. So yeah. That's aged well.
Yes.
We're not talking about it.
He
would be the one setting off the SIM cards now, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. By the way, the soundtrack to the worldwide slaughter, all these people going mad and attacking each other across the globe is a disco number, isn't it?
Baby, give it up. Is it?
That's it. Yeah, which is kind of quite amusing. Also, quite amusing is where they give you like the suppose it's going around the world and kind of get all these like little intertitles like saying where it is, but so clearly all filmed in the UK, just with like a colour filter. It's like that is not a Rio beach. That is like Brighton. It's like that with like a yellow filter.
Yeah, it's not great. But you know what?
They do what they can with their budget. I think they do very well with it. But some of the locations,
$90 million budget.
It's very obvious, very obvious, like green screen back projections and stuff. For some of these scenes.
To be honest, I think part of that might have been the point. Like we're ripping into old spy movies. They use green screen all the time. Let's do it.
But they do build Sam Jackson's character a big old Bond villain hideout at the end. You know, it's so and that's a cool set. So yeah, I respect them for that.
Yes. Okay. Any final thoughts on Kingsman?
The Secret Service is genuinely really good fun.
Yeah, it's really entertaining, and I really hope we get another decent one sometime.
Not gonna happen. Won't happen.
Yeah.
Oof. All right.
We might get one that's a remake in about 20 years' time, which is average at best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is it for this episode, but we will be back next week with something else. Until then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and the Film Magazine. I don't think I've done anything new since Halloween, so check out my Universal Monsters ranking and my Where to Start Boris Karloff if you haven't already.
No, sorry. Hopefully you don't find me anywhere, but I'm K Judgmental in the various places. I think I've got 2 reviews up. So I've got one of The Front Room, which is by the Eggers brothers, who are related to Robert Eggers of The Witch and everything like that. And Heretic as well, which we were talking about Hugh Grant, Evil Hugh Grant. It's interesting, and Hugh Grant is amazing in that movie. So that's, yeah.
And you can find me at Jacob Film Guy. I didn't write anything, but I'm going to recommend from Martha Lane. We brought her up earlier. 10 best B.D. Wong Jurassic Park moments. You can check that one out. And also from George Taylor, guest of the show, 10 best live action supervillain suits. So if you're into that, go see what he thinks about those. Number 1 might surprise. I don't know. It might not.
Yeah. Obviously, you should also check out the textual analysis of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum by Jacob Davis from a few years ago as well.
Yes. And then you can find us. God, that's my pug scratching at the door. You can find me.
You sure it's not a bulldog?
Or us. You can find us at Second Cut Pod. Email us at secondcutpod@gmail.com. You can also. God, he is so annoying. He's in the room. I don't know what he's trying to escape. I don't know. What else do I say here? Follow TFM. Read all of our stuff. Go to the Redbubble store. Give us money at our PayPal. That's all in the description below. Like, subscribe, 5-star review, whatever else. That is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Adios.
Goodbye.